You know that feeling when you're halfway through explaining yourself to someone, and a part of you knows they've already made up their mind. But you keep talking anyway, hoping they'll get it, hoping they'll see your heart, hoping your words will somehow rescue the moment. But they don't. And instead of clarity, you're left with confusion. Instead of connection, you're left with collapse. And instead of being heard, you feel hollow. Again, why do we keep doing this? Carl Jung would say because the ego fears being misunderstood more than it fears being exhausted. The ego wants control. It wants to manage perception. It wants to ensure it is the good one, the kind one, the reasonable one. But every time you argue for your own goodness, you hand your energy over to someone else. You say, "Please see me," and place your power in their hands. But what if you didn't need to be seen to be whole? What if the act of over-explaining wasn't a reflection of clarity, but of fragmentation? What if trying to justify yourself is how your nervous system copes with the terror of disconnection? You see, over-explaining is not a character flaw. It's a survival strategy. Most of us learned early on that clarity wasn't given, it had to be earned. That love came with conditions. That safety was fragile. That to avoid punishment, rejection, or abandonment, we had to explain every feeling, every choice, every boundary. And so we internalized a loop. If I can just explain it well enough, they won't leave. If I can help them understand, maybe I'll finally feel safe. But you won't. Because explanation doesn't fix a relational imbalance. It just masks it. Because the people who want to misunderstand you will. No matter how many times you explain, no matter how gently you speak, no matter how rational you try to be, their ears are tuned not to your truth, but to their story. And if their story needs a villain, your truth becomes the threat. That's why explaining doesn't always bring peace. Sometimes it creates more chaos. Because instead of building a bridge, you end up defending your side over and over again, until you forget why you were even speaking. Carl Jung believed that much of our behavior is driven by the unconscious desire to remain accepted by the collective. In modern terms, this means you'll often shape your language not based on what's true, but on what's acceptable, what's digestible, what's safe. But truth that's filtered through fear is no longer truth. It's performance. And here's the cost: performance drains energy. Not just physically, but spiritually. Because when you explain yourself from a place of insecurity, you are not clarifying, you are contorting. You bend your truth. You soften your tone. You add disclaimers. You apologize for your feelings. You speak not to express, but to appease. And that is spiritual leakage. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And for many of us, this fate looks like compulsive explaining. It looks like being stuck in relationships where we're always too much or too confusing. It looks like draining conversations where we leave feeling more scattered than whole. But here's the radical shift. You don't have to explain yourself to be valid. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't have to make someone else comfortable in order to be safe. You are allowed to choose silence not as withdrawal, but as self-respect. You are allowed to say no without a PowerPoint of reasons. You are allowed to feel what you feel, even if it makes no sense to them. And here's the beautiful paradox: the less you explain, the more powerful your words become. The less you justify, the more grounded you feel. The less you perform, the more you heal. Healing begins when you realize that not every question deserves an answer, that not every misunderstanding requires correction, that some silence speaks louder than all the paragraphs in the world. Because silence is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is not avoidance. Silence is intelligence. Silence is discernment. Silence is energy conservation. And most of all, silence is protection. Carl Jung taught that the self, the deepest core of who we are, emerges not through endless social adaptation, but through inner listening, through solitude, through the quiet moments where we stop seeking to be understood and begin to understand ourselves. So let's make this real. Imagine you're in a heated conversation. You feel the urge to explain, to clarify, to fix how they see you. Your heart is pounding, your throat is tight, your mind is racing for the right words. That's your ego. But if you pause, if you breathe, you might notice something else underneath the panic, a quieter voice, a calmer knowing, a part of you that whispers, you don't need to be right. You just need to be real. This is the shift from ego to self, from proving to presence, from chasing to choosing. And the moment you choose presence over performance, your energy returns to you. You become magnetic, not because you're convincing, but because you're clear. So how do we practice this? You start with micro moments. Moments when someone misjudges your intentions and you don't correct them. Moments when someone demands a reason and you calmly say, I just felt it was right. Moments when someone says, that's selfish, and you respond with a soft smile, not a defense. These are the muscles of energetic sovereignty, because the real flex is not in the explanation. It's in the embodiment. It's in walking your truth so fully that words become optional. It's in respecting your intuition so deeply that you no longer beg others to agree. It's in knowing that the people who truly see you don't need a script. They can feel your alignment. They can sense your boundaries. They can hear your no without a monologue. That's power. Quiet power. Quiet power doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't beg for understanding. It doesn't need approval. It's not loud, but it's undeniable. Because when you stop over-explaining, your presence begins to speak louder than your words ever could. Carl Jung emphasized the integration of opposites, the reconciliation between our conscious persona and our unconscious shadow. And over-explaining is often a shadow behavior disguised as helpfulness. It's the shadow's way of maintaining control while appearing kind. But what happens when you stop? What fills the space once occupied by endless justification? Peace. And with peace comes discernment. You begin to notice which relationships require constant explaining, which environments reward over-clarity but punish truth, which people only hear you when you're performing your pain. You also begin to see silence triggers the insecure. Your stillness becomes their discomfort. Your lack of defense becomes their story. Let it. Your energy is not responsible for managing other people's reactions. Let people misunderstand you. Let them mislabel you. Let them talk. Because anyone who truly deserves your truth will not demand it through coercion. They will create a space where your truth flows naturally, without fear, without pressure, without performance. So here's your reminder. You are allowed to be misunderstood. You are allowed to walk away mid-explanation. You are allowed to choose peace over proving. This is not arrogance. It's alignment. Alignment with the self. The part of you that remembers you were never here to be explained. You were here to be experienced. The most powerful people in the world are often the quietest. Not because they're hiding, but because they no longer need to be loud to be clear. Their life speaks. Their boundaries speak. Their presence speaks. And yours can too. So how do we train ourselves to embody this quiet clarity? It starts with practice. Real-life moments, not theory. Here's a simple but radical exercise. The one-sentence boundary. For the next week, every time someone asks something of you that feels off, respond with only one sentence. No backstory, no apology, no over-explaining. I won't be joining this time. That doesn't work for me. I'm not available for that. Thanks for understanding. Then, silence. Notice what happens in your body. The discomfort, the temptation to justify, the panic of being seen as rude. And then notice nothing breaks. The world doesn't end. You survive. You reclaim your breath. Because every time you withhold unnecessary explanation, you're telling your nervous system, we are safe, even when not approved of. That is deep healing. Carl Jung would call this individuation the becoming of one's full self. And it requires separating from collective scripts that say, if you don't explain, you're selfish. If you're quiet, you're cold. If you're firm, you're unkind. These are lies told by systems that thrive on your compliance, your exhaustion, your guilt. You're allowed to unsubscribe. And in that unsubscription, you create space. Space for stillness. Space for alignment. Space to listen, not to others, but to yourself. Here's another practice. The 5-second pause. Before you reply, breathe, feel your feet. Ask, is this answer for me or for them? If it's for them, to make them feel safe, liked, or unchallenged, reconsider. If it's for you, to honor truth, protect peace, or claim sovereignty, speak it. Simply, cleanly. This is energetic hygiene. And the more you do it, the more you'll notice the people who respect your boundaries don't need your explanations. They trust your no. They honor your space. They see your silence and don't project rejection onto it. That's what real connection looks like. Not noise, but knowing. Let's turn this wisdom into embodiment, into small, sacred rituals of clarity. 1. The explain, nothing challenge. 24 hours. For one day, make a vow, I will not explain myself. Not in texts, not in conversations, not in emails. You can say no. You can change your mind. You can withdraw your energy, but you will not add a paragraph to justify it. Notice the urges. Notice the guilt. Notice how deeply conditioned you are to soften your truth with reasons. And then breathe through it. At the end of the day, journal. Where did I want to explain myself most? What fear was underneath that urge? What did I learn about myself in that silence? 2. Mirror practice. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I do not need to be understood to be valuable. Say it again. Watch your face. Feel your body. Let the words land in your nervous system. Let them rewrite the scripts inside you. 3. Audit your conversations. Scroll through your last 10 text threads. How many times did you over-explain, apologize, or justify things that didn't need justification? Highlight them. Then rewrite them as if you were a sovereign, grounded version of yourself. Not arrogant, not defensive, just clear. Example before. Hey, sorry, I can't come. I have so much going on, and I'm really overwhelmed. After, thanks for the invite. I won't be able to make it. Wishing you a beautiful time. Feel the difference. 4. Real-life scenario. The work setting. You're in a meeting. Someone dismisses your idea. You feel the urge to re-explain it, to package it better, to say it 3 different ways so they get it. Instead, pause. Smile. Say, I believe in the idea as it is. Let's revisit it later if needed. No over-talking, no shrinking, no begging to be seen. Just holding your truth with breath, with grace, with trust. Because you are not here to convince. You are here to embody. And embodiment doesn't ask for permission. So now, let's turn this moment into a mirror. Here's your question for today. Where in your life are you still explaining yourself to be loved? Drop it in the comments. Say it out loud. Let it breathe. This is not weakness, it's awakening.